You know what Bitcoin is, and maybe you understand the mechanics of it a little as well, and now you've heard that it's been adopted as a legal tender in certain countries, but you don't really understand what it's all about and the implications of it. That's why in this video we'll take a look at the territories where Bitcoin has been adopted as a legal tender and see why that actually happened. First of all, let's see what being a legal tender means. Well, within the economy of a country, a legal tender is anything that a central bank of that country accepts as a way to pay for goods. That means that the national currency will always be a legal tender in that country, and more than that, it means that anything that is adopted as a legal tender will act the same way. So if someone wants to pay for a cup of coffee at a random cafe using Bitcoin, and Bitcoin happens to be a legal tender in that country, then the business is required to accept it in exchange for goods. Now that we've established that, let's see which countries have adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender. Well, right now there's only two countries that accept Bitcoin as a legal tender, and those are El Salvador and the Central African Republic. Along these two countries though, there's also some smaller territories that have a certain kind of independence, which have adopted Bitcoin as a legal tender, out of which the most famous case is that of the Swiss city of Lugano, where Bitcoin has recently become a legal tender along with a national currency. But what do these countries actually aim for when adopting Bitcoin as a legal tender? Is it a coincidence that two of the poorest countries in the world, El Salvador and the Central African Republic, are the only countries that have decided to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender, or is there actually an economic reason behind it? Well, the keyword here is remittances. Remittances are transfers from one person to another, and these poor countries rely on remittances for a huge percentage of their GDP. Now, both El Salvador and the Central African Republic have identified that they want to make money transfers into the country cheaper. El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele, projected a $400 million saving with remittances as the country moves to Bitcoin infrastructure. Using the Bitcoin Lightning Network, payments could be cheaper than existing methods. On a macroeconomic basis, the currencies of these countries have generally struggled to hold value against the US dollar. El Salvador switched to using the USD as its currency, but soon realized that most of its exports were to the US, and the weakening dollar did more harm than good to their people. Unlike other Latin American economies, El Salvador didn't have very high inflation before it embraced the dollar. To add to that, they did not have any control over the monetary policy around the USD, which is controlled by a centralized entity in another country. Therefore, the country was looking up to Bitcoin to solve its key issues around remittances while not being affected by the fluctuations of the US dollar. Well, at least that's the official reason that was given by the government of the two countries, but obviously there are theories out there that it's all just a scheme used by the de facto leaders of the countries to accumulate Bitcoin and increase their net worth in times of crisis, but it's always best to look at a problem from all angles and understand everything that might stand behind what meets the eye. Anyway, one way or another, one thing is certain: the adoption of Bitcoin as a legal tender in these territories has created an important precedent, and it's really likely that Bitcoin will start to play a central role in everybody's lives in the near future. So if you're still unsure about how it works and what it can do for the economy, you should go watch this video next.